I really like Garganacl's design, but I will say that Garganacl is sort of an annoying Pokemon to face off against. It's so annoying with the Salt Cure ability that many Pokemon have started to use Covert Cloak as a way to counteract Garganacl. Because of that, Garganacl's Salt Cure sort of makes it a very passive, weak Pokemon when facing those Pokemon with the Covert Cloak. So I've decided today, instead of having Stealth Rock on my Garganacl, I'm going to put on Earthquake to make people remember that Garganacl actually has a passable attack stat, and I think that it should take Pokemon like Gholdengo off guard a bit, depending on if, of course, they are running the Covert Cloak. So looking at my opponent's team, they are pretty Chen-Pao weak. They could have a Scarf Iron Valiant like mine is for Chen-Pao. I'm going to lead off with Chen-Pao and see what that gets me. Right off the bat, we can see that unless they're Choice Scarf Garchomp, which I suppose they could be, that they don't really appreciate the Chen-Pao. I'm going to go for Crunch here, in case they go into Rotom Wash, as they actually don't really capitalize on this very well. And they already lost their Terastallization turn 2, which I will definitely take that. So they got a Stealth Rock up, and that's a bit annoying because I don't actually have any hazard removal on this team. I was testing this team earlier with a bunch of different Pokemon, and I completely reworked it for this video. I used to have a Quackleval with Rapid Spin, but I really didn't like how that was working. And so now we'll just have to sort of deal with the Stealth Rock. I will limit me somewhat, but that's, that is what it is. Defensive Rotom for Chen-Pao and for Great Tusk, and that takes a lot of damage. I'm going to click Hydro Pump here, and we get rid of the Great Tusk. So it was Body Press, but then it was offensive. I don't really understand. So it was like max speed, max defense? I'm not sure. Alright, at this point I'm going to Volt Switch out into something. Clodsire is still good to keep around for the Gholdengo and the Iron Valiant. This, I think, it's good to go into Garganacl on, because you can't Spore it. Giga Drain is a little bit annoying, but we do have a lot of Spadef, so I think we should be able to take it okay, as they do Giga Drain there. And then we're going to whip out our Tech Dragon Terastallization and go for the Salt Cure, as they are not Covert Cloak, so I will take that. A little bit unfortunate that we used the Dragon Tera a little bit earlier than I would have liked, but I think that's okay. Now I'm going to go into my Iron Valiant, because I am also Choice Scarfed, and they forfeit the game. I think that's fair. At that point, they didn't really have too much for it. Gholdengo doesn't appreciate the Salt Cure, and that is really the big difference between Scarf Gholdengo, which was extremely popular for a while, and Covert Cloak. So Covert Cloak allows you to come in, you're going to resist the initial Salt Cure, and because you're not getting the secondary effect, then you're going to resist the initial weak hit, and that's it. But for Gholdengo, because it's a Steel type, the weak Salt Cure actually becomes an extremely powerful move on it, and it really gets punished hard because of it. And because so many of the Garganacls moved away from the initial Iron Defense Body Press sets into the Protect sets, you can then scout for the trick. You can get Salt Cure Chip, even if they had gone for Nasty Plot. I did have my Unaware Clodsire, so really there was nothing that Gholdengo could do against this team. And this team is more or less designed to beat Gholdengo. So we have the Chen-Pao, which of course Gholdengo doesn't appreciate. We have the Garganacl with the Trickery, and we have the Scarf Iron Valiant with the Shadow Ball, all of which will help beat it in various forms. And we have Clodsire as well. Okay, now this is a really offensive team, so I can appreciate that from my opponent. I want to, in theory, save the Volcarona for later. But this is a pretty dang scary team. I actually think maybe I want to lead off with the Volcarona. Okay, as they are attack booster energy, so that's sort of a problem, but I can go Rotom on this. And then just go for Earthquake, good. Okay, So let's go for the Hydro Pump first. If they switch out, then they'll lose their Quirk Drive, which at the end of the day, I think is something you really just want to force a lot of Booster Energy Pokemon to switch. As soon as the Booster Energy Pokemon switches, then whatever thing was scaring you before about them is no longer scary. So this next time the Iron Treads comes in, it's not going to be Choice Banded, it's not going to be Focus Sash, it's just, well, it's going to have no boosts. Or, if they stay in, they're dead. And that's actually sort of the reason why I don't really like Booster Energy as an item so much. I don't really understand the taunt there, but I guess it doesn't really matter that much. I can just Volt Switch here. And now that we know that they're taunt, I'm not going to be tricked into going into my Volcarona. Let's go into my... I could go into my Iron Valiant, but then they can Parting Shot into their Iron Moth. Or something else equally annoying, so I don't really think I want to do that. I think I would rather go into my Garganacl. And we'll go for Salt Cure. If they go for Parting Shot, that's not too big of a deal. And if they go into Quaquaval and it gets Salt Cured, then we should be able to get it on a timer because it's a water type, right? So it'll be doing a good chunk. And again, I'm a dragon type, so that'll be fine. Here I'm going to go for Protect, just so they can't Parting Shot out so quickly. And here we Salt Cure again. We don't care about this so much because unless I need to use my Earthquake for whatever reason, that's not that big of a deal. At this point, I'll go into my Rotom. I am max defense after all. And I'm just going to click the Thunder Wave. It's a close combat and they do not kill. So now I should outspeed them. And I will just click the... I'm going to click Protect so I can get Eternal Leftovers back. And they'll take a Salt Cure. And then I can Volt Switch out. So I don't know if I would have killed with the light screen up, but I'm not trying to be a jerk there. That Protect was there for a reason. I'm gonna go back into Garganacl. Okay, so the Reflect is almost gone. The light screen is gone. They may want to go into Grimmsnarl just to get the screens back up, and I think that would be a good play for them to make. You could also try maybe going into Roaring Moon, if you feel like it. Or Scizor could also be a good play, especially if you're expecting me to be the normal Fairy type one. I don't think Fairy would be very strong on this team, but, you know, maybe it is. Okay, they go into the Iron Moth. I'm just going to go for Salt Cure here. They go for Agility. And now this is actually the reason why I am Dragon on this. So they can go for an Energy Ball on me, and that'll be super effective. But with Dragon, I will resist it, and I will resist as well the Fire move. So Volcarona is a really scary Pokemon, and it's really messing up a lot of people in the tier right now. So I could have chosen Water as my Tera type if I didn't want to go with Fairy, and that would be really good for Pokemon like a Gholdengo. But then I'd be really weak to Grass type Volcarona. So I decided instead to go with Dragon. And that was the way I came up with that decision. I don't think my opponent will switch out because it seems like they're sort of committing to this course of action. Let's actually see if we can see what they're seeing. So we look at my Garganacl. Iron Moth, OU Agility is what they are. And they have Energy Ball, right? So they're saying if I Terra Grass, 86% to 102% or whatever they're thinking. But if I Terra Dragon, then all of a sudden that doesn't do anything. Yeah, look at that. So now they're Grass type. Energy Ball does nothing to me. And I can go for the Recover again. Is the Sludge Wave now, and it will do a lot. But that's okay, because Iron Moth, as opposed to the other bug, does not have a way to boost its special attack. So this is why, and I'm really glad I got to show this is why I think Dragon-type Garganacl actually isn't too bad. I mean, Garganacl is just a really busted Pokemon, generally speaking. So, you know, just about anything would be good on Garg. It can't get poisoned by the sludge wave here. And all they're doing is wasting some of my recovers, which to be honest is annoying, because I'm down to 2 recovers, but I got rid of their Iron Moth and it was completely brain dead. I didn't have to think about it for a second. Only thing they could do was switch there. Now I'm not going to be... Okay, let's Earthquake here, so we can get off a bit more chip. That's chip! Woo! I wasn't expecting it to be that strong. Okay. And here I will go for Salt Cure again. I don't want them to be able to set up for free. So I would rather just kill them. You don't recover on a Pokemon like this. Now I'm going to go into Iron Valiant because it's basically the end of the game. My opponent did avoid the 6-0, but it's basically over. So if they had Dragon Danced on my Protect, then that would have been an issue because then maybe they could have outsped with my Iron Valiant. They would have only needed 1 Dragon Dance and been jolly to do so. So I wasn't going to Protect. That would have been a bad play. So I'd rather let them kill me and then I can go into my Iron Valiant, which is Choice Scarf, and that's the end of the game. Yeah, so you can see there how the Dragon type Garganacl actually did a really good job. So I want to show you guys a replay that I got earlier with the other team that I mentioned. So before I had an Iron Moth of my own, and I had Team Glue over Clodsire, and I had Scizor, and I had Quaquaval, like I said, with the Rapid Spin. And this team wasn't bad. I think that it can't really be that bad because you've got broken Pokemon, potentially broken Pokemon, and then 3 offensive Pokemon that are pretty fun to use overall. So really, a pretty solid team. But then you get stalled out by Toxapex Wochen, and then you realize, I'm not liking how this is going so well. So I switched it up. I think the alterations to the team definitely are better. I do like Whirlwind on Tinglu, but I think Clodsire overall, especially with Unaware, is super nice. And it does give you a poison type when you have this really bad fighting weakness over here. And I think that that the offensive Pokemon we've got are a bit stronger, right? This is sort of what took the place of the Quaquaval. I replaced Volcarona over the Iron Moth, and you can see why Iron Moth isn't particularly strong if you get stonewalled by Garganacl or Clodsire or so many other Pokemon where Volcarona can sweep in the end game, although again, Clodsire has Unaware. And so I think that my new team is better. But this was it was fine. And I do want to show you guys this replay because I thought this sort of shows another example of why Dragon-type Garganacl is actually a threat. So I decided to lead off with Chen Pao here, in case they want to lead off with the Pelipper or even the Dragapult, right? You don't necessarily want to mess around with the Chen Pao, and Chen Pao can start getting kills right off the bat. They lead off with Iron Treads, which wouldn't necessarily be an issue because I can Sacred Sword you, I can Icicle Crash you, or I can even Crunch if I so desire. But they actually are the speed boosting Quark Drive. I'm going to switch out into my Tinglu because I don't want to die for no good reason. As they actually predict that and go for Stealth Rock. I'm going to just stay in. I don't really need my Tinglu in this game so much, except for against the Iron Treads. I actually force out the Iron Treads, and this goes back to what I was talking about before. That Iron Treads was a problem because it had the +1 speed and wasn't locked in, right? You basically got a Choice Scarf without the downside of Choice Scarf, but you only get it once per game. And that's really the issue. Now, if this team had a Tapu Koko, then that would be an entirely different story. But because you're relying on that booster energy, now that it forced you out, now is not a problem at all. So I'm going to Earthquake again because I want it dead if I can. And I don't want to take too much damage on my Tinglu. So I could have spiked or done something there predicting the Pelipper, but I just wanted to get it dead. And this is pretty low ladder, so I didn't want to over-predict. Here on Pelipper, I don't really have any good switch-ins to Pelipper, so I'm just going to go for Ruination, try to get the Pelipper to either switch out or Roost or do something else, and then predicting them to do something else, and knowing that Ruination is not going to do too much the second time, I'm just going to go for a Spike here. I'm just going to let the Brute Bonnet kill me here, but then I get to go into Scizor and look at their team, look at Scizor. Not great. Boltsoul is not a Steel Switch-In, and Brute Bonnet just dies. Again, another example of a time where I forced them to either switch and save their Pokemon, or to stay in and lose their Pokemon. But if they switch, they're going to lose their Photosynthesis boost. So we've gotten rid of both of their booster energy Pokemon. Or at least the booster energy on those Pokemon. So that's okay. Now I go into Garganacl. I want to bait out their Float Soul, and I did this on purpose. I knew that this would scream, hey, go Float Soul. What am I? Am I a Fairy type? Am I a Fighting type? Am I a Ghost type? Float Soul doesn't care. You're in the rain. You've got Terra Water, Choice Band, and Wave Crash. Such a fun, broken mechanic. So I'm going to go into a Dragon type because I know I can eat one hit. And I do eat the one hit. Look at how much that does. 60%. But you're a Water type now, and you're Salt Cured. And I got a Spike Up. So now I can click Protect here, and you'll Wave Crash, and you'll die. So I successfully baited the Float Soul here, and it sort of shows the Dragon type is really good. Of course, could have been Grass type, and it would have done just the same thing. But again, I want that sort of Volcarona. I'm going to sack the Scizor here. It's not doing too much against 2 Water types and a Steel type. So if I can get any damage on the Dragapult, it'll be great. If not, I'll just go for Bullet Punch here in case they stay in. And here you can see that the Bullet Punch did 23%, Pelipper's 28%. So I'm not going to be able to kill it with another Bullet Punch. So I'm going to predict them to go for Roost, and I'm going to go for Close Combat. If they had decided to go for anything else, it doesn't really matter because my Chien-Pao would have killed them anyway. But now they are in range of Bullet Punch, so I'm just going to go for that. I'll take that. And their rain is slowly going away. So at this point, it's just a waiting game. They do get the Rapid Spin off, which is a little bit sad, but I don't think this is Focus Sash. Here I'm going to go for the Aqua Step, I believe, because since they're +1 speed and they will outspeed me, then there's no point going for Rapid Spin and then like outspeeding them, right? So I would rather just kill them, get my +1/+1, and then they're going to be forced to go into Dreadnought. I'm not sure what their set is, but I have to stay in close combat. But they show Liquidation. I don't know if that killed in the rain, because I am Quaquaval. Quaquaval is decently bulky, but you are in the rain, and your Dreadnought is quite strong. But it may be Choice Band. So going off of that, I think, well, maybe I can live with my Dragon-type Garg as I switch out, so it's probably Choice Band. Here is an example where Dragon-type Garg is actually worse. So one of the things Garganacl does really well is Wall Dragapult. If you turn into a Fairy type, you can't get hit with Draco Meteor. Flamethrower U-turn, that's not going to do anything. And you have an ability that has Shadow Ball damage. So Garganacl is a fantastic counter to Dragapult. It's what Mega Audino wishes it could be. But since I've turned into a Dragon type, now I cannot do that anymore. And that is one of the main downsides to this Terra type. And I do want to mention that. So here I'm going to have to switch out because I don't want to take a Draco Meteor, but I can scout out them first because they're almost certainly Choice Specs. I'm going to sack the Iron Moth because it doesn't really beat these 2 Pokemon, and I'm not using it, so I'm just going to let it get -2. And then I can get Checkmate here by going into Chien-Pao. I go for Crunch because they're -2. They can't kill me without a crit, so I can Crunch to a KO the Dreadnought. Doesn't matter if they're Focus Sash or Banned or whatever they were. And now at this point, because I know that they're choice locked, I can just sack my Garganacl here, and then I'm going to go for the Sucker Punch with the Chien-Pao. If they had decided to have gone for Shadow Ball, then I would have lived with the Garganacl and killed them easily. So I think that was a really representative way of how to use this particular Garganacl. Use it for Pokemon that normally think they're going to beat you, like the Float Soul. Use it on Pokemon like the Iron Moth or the Volcarona, who think that, well, if I turn into a Grass type, I'll beat you no matter what typing you are. No, I'm a Dragon type now. I think that the Garganacl itself, I think, is just inherently sort of a busted Pokemon. Not maybe enough to ban because there's so many other annoying Pokemon like Tinglu and even maybe Clodsire. Probably not Clodsire. Dondozo, there's another big one. Where there's so many bulk Pokemon in the tier that, you know, Garganacl is just one of the bunch. But it is very strong. And I don't think that... I think almost any Terra type would be good. Maybe not Ice or Bug, but just about any other, even Fire type, I think could be useful in certain situations. So I think Dragon type, though, seriously consider it. Does weaken you against Dragapult, but against so many other Pokemon, I think they're supposed to beat you, really strong. I had a Covert Cloak over Leftovers on this particular set because I figured I needed my own Garganacl check. And so this could help against that. So many of them are not running Iron Defense. It's a very rare set to see nowadays. Earthquake doesn't do too much, but you can Salt Cure them, can Earthquake, Recover, Protect. I think that's okay. And then, but you can run leftovers on this as well. And the 28 EVs is for specifically Gholdengo, just a standard Gholdengo. You can get a higher roll on the 2-hit KO with the Earthquake. So the point is that if you have Garganacl out, well, they go Gholdengo on your expected Salt Cure, because I got a Covert Cloak. You're not going to be able to touch me. Earthquake on the switch in, and then they're forced to either switch out again or to go for Recover, and you can waste all the Recovers and eventually kill them with your Earthquakes. So that's the idea with this particular set. Basically, this team is designed to kill Gholdengo because it's an annoying Pokemon. Then you have the Dragon type, Tera type to kill the Volcaronas. Anyway, long end the video discussion, but I think it's worth it to sort of break down my logic and my reasoning in case you want to adapt this for your own teams. But that'll be it for me today. I'll catch you guys next time.